Welcome in to the 2017 Talking 10 Postseason Basketball Awards Special. It's the voice of Talking 10, publisher Andy Coppins, with you for the next 15 minutes as we give you a look at the best the Big Ten had to offer this season. What may be one of the most wild Big Ten basketball seasons is in the books, as the Big Ten tournament week is upon us and fans are flocking to our nation's capital for the very first B1G tourney to be held there. That means it's time to hand out awards, and our staff here at Talking 10 has gathered in a non-smoke-filled room, deliberated hard, and came up with our official award winners for 2017. Given the wild nature of the Big Ten, will we see controversy or consensus amongst our staff picks? We'll get into the weeds of that in just a bit. But first, I'd like to shout out to all of our voters: Philip Rossman-Reich, who you can find at RiseNU on Twitter, Zach Worthington at Worthy10 on Twitter, Ryan Vaddy at BadgerSports1 on Twitter, and of course, yours truly at AndyOnFootball on the Twitter. It was a heated, interesting, and, fun debate to get to this moment amongst our writers, and this group has been on the ball all season long, and we are confident these picks are the right ones. With that in mind, let's start by looking at the freshmen. They were really one of the biggest stories all season long if you take a look at the Big Ten as a whole. And people asked a lot of questions about why the inconsistency, the wild results, the craziness that occurred. A lot of it can come down to the fact that so many teams were relying on freshmen, and more freshmen to get the job done. Inconsistency and freshmen kind of go hand in hand. However, not all freshmen were inconsistent. Either way, this is one of the closest races for the all-freshman team we've had in the years we've been doing these awards. So here's our all-freshman team for the 2016-17 season. Miles Bridges of Michigan State, Amir Coffey of Minnesota, Nick Ward of Michigan State, Tony Carr from Penn State, and Tyler Cook of Iowa. Bridges and Coffey stood out to all of our staff and were the only ones to be unanimous selections to this team for 2017. Bridges led all freshmen in scoring, averaging 16.6 points per game. Meanwhile, Nick Ward at 13.3 and Tony Carr at 13.2 were in the top 20 in scoring in the conference. Ward also had 3 double-doubles on the season, averaged 6.3 rebounds, and shot 57.6% in Big Ten games, which was also third in the league. Coffey, the prize of Minnesota's 2016 class, didn't disappoint either. He averaged 12 points, 3.9 rebounds, and 3.1 assists per game. He was a huge spark in a Gophers team that led the nation in wins turnaround this season and battled for Wisconsin not only for bragging rights, but the number 2 seed in the Big Ten tournament before ultimately getting crushed in the second half of that last game on Sunday. As for Tony Carr of Penn State, he may be one of the most underrated players on this list, averaging 13.2 points per game. He also was one of the most consistent scorers for the Nittany Lions, hitting in double figures in 10 of the last 11 games this season. He also had 7 games of 20 or more points on the year. Meanwhile, Tyler Cook helped keep Iowa from collapsing when or if Peter Jok was struggling to score. And it wasn't that often. He managed to average 12 points per game even after missing the entire month of December with an injury. Cook came back and managed to score in double figures in all but 5 conference contests this season. So who topped the list and became the Big Ten Freshman of the Year? This was a unanimous pick as well. And the envelope, don't worry, there's going to be no Oscar envelope jokes here. The winner, Miles Bridges, Michigan State. He was the driving force for that team, and one could really see it during his absence due to injury earlier during Big Ten play. Not only did Bridges average 16.6 points, 8.3 rebounds, and 2 assists per game, he was also one of the most efficient scorers in the conference with an effective field goal percentage of 56.7% on the year. He also hit 40.8% from beyond the arc and may be one of the few freshmen that is a surefire one and done out of the Big Ten. It certainly was an easy pick for our staff to make, no doubt about it. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that take a look at what happened for Michigan State when he was out and then when he came back. This team went on an absolute tear, basically the second that he came back, nearly getting into the conference race. And while that was an easy pick, what wasn't so easy were our choices for the rest of the awards across the Big Ten. So let's look at who got individual honors amongst the rest of the conference, starting with the honorable mention All Big Ten team. James Blackman Jr. of Indiana, Ty Webster from Nebraska, Nate Mason of Minnesota, Nick Ward from Michigan State, and Scotty Lindsey of Northwestern. Blackman was the only unanimous pick on this team, holding together a makeshift Hoosiers team by the end of the season. He did finish conference play 5th in scoring, averaging 16.5 points per game in Big Ten play. There were 5 games with 20-plus points, including a season-high 33 points and a big win late in January against Michigan State. This pick may have been higher had the Hoosiers not had to rely solely on his production throughout Big Ten play, and, well, frankly, had Indiana not finished the season at 7-11 in conference. Ty Webster, on the other hand, was an absolute monster for an inconsistent Cornhuskers team, finishing 3rd in scoring during conference play. He averaged 17.3 points per game, just above his 17.2 points per game average overall on the year. Webster was 3rd in the team in rebounds at 5.1 per game, and also led the team in assists at 4 assists per game. One name that may surprise some to be this low is that of Nate Mason from Minnesota. After all, some have made an argument for him to be on that first team. He did also put up 17.2 points per game in Big Ten play, ranking 4th in scoring during conference action. He also led the team in assists at 5.1 per game, including 4.8 to rank 4th in Big Ten games. Mason had one heck of a season for a team that surprised a lot of people. However, this season was full of loaded talent individually, and Mason just couldn't find his way on the first or second team for the majority of the ballots across our voters. Another name that may have been higher on our list had things gone right was that of Scotty Lindsey of Northwestern. Instead, he missed 4 games in a crucial period for Northwestern during Big Ten play and wasn't the same after his return. He finished the year averaging 14 points, 4 rebounds, and 2.4 assists per game for a Wildcats team that has all but officially been invited to their very first NCAA tournament. The final man on this team is the lone freshman to make the honorable mention team, Nick Ward of Michigan State. Add him along with Miles Bridges, and you saw an absolute explosive Michigan State team as the season progressed. The early season struggles, the brutal schedule that the Spartans played, it all paid off as Ward and Bridges combined to just be a dominating force for the Spartans, as we've stated before. The question is, can any other freshman make an appearance on an all-conference team? Let's go ahead and move ahead to the second team. Our picks for second team All-Big Ten this season are Bronson Koenig of Wisconsin, Nigel Hayes of Wisconsin, Miles Bridges of Michigan State, Malcolm Hill of Illinois, and Derek Walton Jr. of Michigan. Amazingly, not a single member of this team was a unanimous pick amongst our staff. Not even our freshman of the year, Miles Bridges. Perhaps most striking was seeing a pair of Badgers on this list, a likely indication of a disappointing year compared to offseason expectations in Madison. Wisconsin seniors Bronson Koenig and Nigel Hayes were joined on this team by fellow seniors Malcolm Hill of Illinois and Derek Walton Jr. of Michigan. Koenig fought through a pesky calf injury for the better part of the second half of this season and still managed to average 13.8 points per game in conference play. He also averaged 14.2 points, which led the Badgers, 2.2 rebounds, and 2 assists on the year. Hayes finished with 13.5 points, 6.2 rebounds, and a tie at the top of the assist list in Wisconsin with 2.9 per game. Meanwhile, down in Champaign, Hill averaged a healthy 17.2 points, 4.8 rebounds, and 2.1 assists per game. He also had an effective field goal percentage of 50.4 on the season for an Illinois team that often looked for him to be the sole point producer. And no pick may have been more come with more controversy on this line than that of Derek Walton Jr. of Michigan. The Wolverine senior did a lot of everything for this team, averaging 14.5 points, 4.7 rebounds, and 4.5 assists on the year. It is hard to find a single player who meant more at either end of the court to his team. In fact, Walton Jr. led the team in points and assists while ranking second in rebounds. Not too shabby for a guard. And now for the moment you've all been waiting for. The best of the B1G, and we're going to give you some more individual award winners as well. So why don't we start with our pick for Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. And that honor goes to Ethan Happ, sophomore forward of Wisconsin. Happ won all but one of our ballots. So a near unanimous selection after he led his team in all 5 major stat categories in Big Ten play. That's right, folks. Points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. All of them. Defensively, few big men were as scary as Happ was to go up against, because he averaged 8.6 rebounds, 2.3 steals, and 1.6 blocks per game in Big Ten play. His 2.3 steals per game in conference play led all conference players. That from a 6'10" forward. We're not talking about a 6'1", point guard with lightning quick hands. This guy absolutely dominated, whether it was blocking shots, the footwork in the post, or making players pay for mental mistakes with the ball. Happ was a defensive juggernaut the vast majority of the season. And that leaves just one major award to give out. And we'll get to that just as soon as we get to the all Big Ten first team selections. And of course, that is Melo Trimble of Maryland, Caleb Swanigan from Purdue, our Defensive Player of the Year, Ethan Happ of Wisconsin, Peter Jock of Iowa, and Bryant McIntosh of Northwestern. And as you can see, we had 3 players who were unanimous selections to the first team. Joining Happ as a unanimous pick were Maryland junior guard Melo Trimble and Purdue sophomore Caleb Swanigan. Our first team really couldn't have been complete without the conference's top scorer, Iowa senior guard Peter Jock. He averaged a ridiculous 20.2 points per game, along with 5.7 rebounds and 2.7 assists on the season. Trimble, on the other hand, a unanimous selection, was certainly worthy of his place here, leading one of our bigger surprises in conference play in the Maryland Terrapins. Not only did he come back for his junior year, but it also may have been a very smart move for him financially, as Trimble led the freshman-laden Terps to nearly a conference title. He did it while averaging 16.9 points, 3.6 rebounds, and 3.7 assists per game. His 16.9 points per game average was a career high, while he shot a crazy 51.9% from inside the arc to go with 43.8% overall from the field. No doubt, I think the biggest surprise for all of you on this list, that's got to be none other than Bryant McIntosh of Northwestern. As the Wildcats stare their first ever NCAA tournament berth in the face, they can thank McIntosh for a lot of it. He upped his points per game to 14.6, and also had 2.9 rebounds to go with 5.4 assists per game, which was tops in the Big Ten this season. Our last look at a player on the first team also happens to be our unanimous choice as the Big Ten Player of the Year, Purdue's Caleb Swanigan. I mean, how could you not make that vote? After all, Swanigan leads the Big Ten in points at 18.9 and rebounds at 12.6 during conference play. He finished this regular season averaging just a little lower at 18.7 points and very similar 12.6 rebounds, while also having an effective field goal percentage of 58.2%. Just how crazy was his performance this season? Try having a double-double in all but 4 of 31 games and putting up 4 games with 20 or more rebounds. He also had one game, just one, in which he failed to score in double figures. So that's 30 games in double figures this season. Simply put, no player is more dominant in multiple ways this season in the Big Ten. The big question may be whether Swanigan can help Purdue scare off its long history of disappointing results in the NCAA tournament. That does it for our annual Talking 10 men's basketball postseason award show. But let's go ahead and recap all the winners for you first. Questions, qualms, concerns, all of our choices. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at TalkingB1G. Head over to Facebook at TalkingBig10 or myself at AndyOnFootball on Twitter. Until we meet again here on Talking 10 TV, keep on living the B1G life.